Cholette from the Troy Assembly of God, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all join me in standing. Good evening, Pastor Cholette.
Father, we come to you tonight with thankful hearts, Lord, for all of these that are gathered here tonight to conduct the business of this city. Lord, you said that for all of those in authority that we need to pray for them. And Lord God, we ask for your help tonight because, Lord, we know that this is still one nation under God, and we know, Lord, that as a people we need your wisdom. Lord, you said that your thoughts are much higher than ours, your ways are much higher than ours. I ask you, Lord, that you would help us tonight to find your wisdom and your direction and your thoughts. You said in your word, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge you, Lord, and that you would direct our paths. I pray, Lord, that we would acknowledge you in all of our decisions, and Lord, that we would yield to your help and to your strength and to your direction. And Lord, we'll be sure to give you the praise. I pray, Lord, that your peace would rest upon this meeting. We love you and thank you for the privilege of calling on you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This begins the January 23rd, 2012 Troy City Council meeting. It's now called to order. Roll call, please, Mrs. Bittner.
Mayor Daniels.
Here.
Councilmember Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Fleming. Here. Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McGinnis.
Here.
Councilmember Slater.
Here.
Councilmember Teets.
Here.
Quorum present. The first item on our agenda is a service commendation to retired police officer Jay Reynolds. Would the council like to join me at the podium? City of Troy Service Commendation, Jay Reynolds. Whereas Police Officer Jay Reynolds began his career with the Troy Police Department on March 6, 1978. He served the Troy community in many areas, including patrol, juvenile unit, tactical support unit, directed patrol unit, investigations, court officer and communications, and whereas Officer Jay Reynolds served as Community Services Retail Liaison, FTO, Precision Driving Instructor, Firearms Instructor, and on the Bike Patrol. He was a founding member of the SRU and Oakland County Hazardous Materials Response Team member and Emergency Vehicle Operations Instructor. And whereas Officer Reynolds also taught basic detective, investigator program, and identity theft investigation classes. He joined the Troy Fire Department as a volunteer firefighter at Station 5 on May 15, 1980, and retired on August 19, 2011, with 31 years of service. And whereas Officer Reynolds was recognized in 1988 and 1991 with life-saving awards, received 1 unit citation, over 100 letters of appreciation and commendations, and received 6 consecutive safe driving awards, accident-free, with both the police department and the fire department. And whereas in 1988, Officer Reynolds received the MACP Top Traffic Award, Most Improved in the Tactical Support Unit. During his career in Troy, he received a certificate of appreciation from the United States Secret Service and recognition for excellent customer service by the International Association of Financial Crimes Investigators. And whereas Officer Reynolds worked tirelessly each year with Shop with a Hero, the annual holiday food and gift drive, National Night Out, and the Troy Days Festival, and also never called in sick during his career. And whereas Officer Reynolds retired from the City of Troy on August 11, 2011, after 33 years of dedicated service and the utmost respect from his peers, the Troy employees, and countless members of the community he serves, and whereas Jay will now enjoy more time with his wife Kelly, his son Jay, daughter-in-law Stephanie, and grandkids Aideen and Aiden and Delaney, thank you. Daughter Natalie, son-in-law Dave, and grandkids Lucas and Griffin. Daughter Gina, son-in-law Chris, and grandkids Ryder and Faith, and daughter Madison. And now, therefore, be it known that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Troy take this opportunity to express their appreciation to Officer Jay Reynolds for his many contributions to the betterment of the city. And be it further known that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Troy, City Management, and the citizens of the City of Troy extends wishes of prosperity, good health, and happiness to Jay during his retirement years. Presented the 23rd day of January 2012. Thank you so much.
I'd like to think that citizens of the City of Troy, it was a privilege to serve. All the chiefs of police that I served under, the fire chiefs that I served under, basically it was a matter of matching solutions to the problems, and if we didn't have them, we made them. And I was appreciative of a culture that allowed for that. It was fun, and in retrospect, I'd be a liar if I told you that I enjoyed every minute of it, but I enjoyed every day. And I thank you all. Boy, do I appreciate you standing. Congratulations. You guys were all present and accounted for.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. Thank you very much. There are no carryover items, so we'll address the scheduled public hearing for the granting of an Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate, IFEC, for Tapel Brothers Printing Incorporated, 1725 John R. Mr. Zerlig, did you have someone make presentation?
Yes, ma'am. I have Nino Licari, our city assessor.
Good evening.
Surprise. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. For most of you, this will be a new item that you'll have to address tonight. It's a tax abatement request from Tapel Brothers Printing. This is actually their second request. In 2008, they were granted a tax abatement for about $5 million in purchases that they made at their location in Troy. They're going to purchase some additional equipment here. It's about $2.4 million. They'll be adding 10 jobs to the 96 jobs they already have at this location. Under the current council tax abatement policy, they qualify for 7 years. In the 2008 abatement, we had no restriction on the years, so they got the 12 years for that one. This one limits them to 7 years because of the amount of the investment, the number of jobs, and the fact that they own the building that they're operating out of. Over the 7 years, the total taxes would normally be about $128,000, of which $42,000 would be city taxes. With the abatement, it's 50%. Their total tax bill over the 7 years would be roughly $64,000, of which $21,000 is city taxes that would be abated. So the net gain to the city is $21,000. $21,000. The net loss to the city is also $21,000. The abatement itself meets all of the current requirements of the council's tax abatement policy. The policy is required by state law. Before you can grant an abatement, you have to have a local policy in place. We do have one currently. I understand from Mr. Zerleg that will be up for review by the body, and Mr. Lappin and myself and Mr. Miller and Mr. Zerleg will be bringing that to your attention in the near future. The other thing that's different about this one, for those of you that were sitting on the last council, is that normally we would have to create an industrial development district before we could give an abatement. Well, since they already have an existing abatement, there's an existing district in place, so there's no need for the 2 public hearings that we would normally have. It'll just be this one, and that's the consideration that you'll have to make at this point in time. Now, Mr. Teppel is here, as he always is, if you have any specific questions for him, but they're a long-term taxpayer here in Troy. They did create 22 new jobs with their last abatement, so this will be 32 new jobs total over a 4-year span that they're creating by investing a little over $7 million is what they're looking at. And I can answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions from the council?
Yes.
Mayor?
Here.
Councilman
This is all
Campbell.
going to be personal property tax, right? No.
Yes, I should have mentioned that for the newer people. We only grant abatements on personal property. There's no real property abatement here in Troy unless it's a plant rehabilitation, which is a whole different animal than what we're talking about here. This is personal property only, and that's by council policy. The state law does allow abatement on the real property. The city of Troy does not grant tax abatement on real property at this point in time.
Would the petitioner like to take the podium?
He's here to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay. The public hearing is now open. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Okay. Oh, excuse me. Attorney Bloom, if you'd like to approach the podium, please, Mr. Peters.
Yeah, I'd just like to know the environmental aspect. Has it been studied? And you know, I don't want to put pollution. You know.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Mayor, there is no environmental impact statement required for this type of investment. It's a printing company. They're buying computerized equipment to do high-speed printing. There is no environmental impact from this abatement at all.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak on this issue? Public hearing is now closed. We'll return the item to the council table for resolution. Would someone like to make a resolution?
Madam Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem McGinnis?
I will move the resolution as printed.
Second?
Or
A moved by Mayor Pro Tem McGinnis, seconded by Councilman Fleming. Discussion? Vote, please, Mrs. Bittner.
Mayor Daniels?
I'm generally opposed to tax abatements, so my vote is no.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McGinnis?
Yes.
Councilmember Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Teets?
No.
Motion passes. We now move to public comments. I'd like to remind the audience that all of the comments are to be directed at the council table rather than to management or staff. And I'll be announcing when each speaker is at their 30-second time limit so that we can keep the 5-minute time limit intact. It's never my intention to interrupt you, but if it seems that way, it's only because I'm trying to move the meeting forward. Again, I would appreciate if we'd hold off on applause. Maybe after everyone is done speaking, we could all applause for everyone's participation in the legislative process. I think that would be nice. Thank you very much. First in line will be Dan Fair. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people speaking this evening, Mr. Fair?
Janice, refresh your screen.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, and management staff. I'm a 30-year-plus resident of Troy. I have very deep roots in this community, including 8 grandchildren. I've spoken before this council only but a few times regarding our wonderful Troy Police Department, Fire Department, and EMS personnel. I have never addressed any other issues such as a library, civic center, DDA budget, historical center, golf course, Nature Center High School, snow removal, grass cutting, windmills, solar panels, transit center, or even Hooters. However, I do come before you tonight with another positive message that I hope you will all try to understand. Let me begin with an analogy. A house is built of just sticks and mortar. A home is built with love and affection. If you agree with this analogy, then you will also agree that you could gold plate everything within the city of Troy, and it still wouldn't feel like a happy home. I've already mentioned that I've only been here to City Council but for a few meetings. However, I have watched almost all of them these past few years on cable. During many meetings, I have heard various council members, including the current and former mayor, literally cut to the core, including name-calling, and no other council member came to their defense. I have heard a current council member's former, honorable, and distinguished career questioned, and no other council member came to his defense. I have heard a former mayor's integrity tarnished, and no other council member came to her defense as well. I have heard our current mayor apologize to the entire council, city staff, and the entire community for a remark that she made prior to holding office. Every city council member voiced their opinion regarding the mayor's remarks, yet only one council member publicly accepted her apology. Up until now, I have intentionally stayed away from using actual names. However, this time, kudos to you, Mr. Fleming. You're a true gentleman. In closing, let's be civil to one another. Debating issues is a good thing, but personal attacks and disrespect has to stop. Let's also stop threatening or using the media and other social networks to rip each other's hearts out. The hardworking individuals of the Troy City Council and city management are the community leaders that we Troy citizens all depend upon. Let the healing process begin tonight, right now, with each and every one of you treating the other with dignity, civility, and respect that you all deserve. Furthermore, I know that there's people in the audience that have also taken the time to prepare and to come to this meeting with their thoughts. Let me ask you now that if your comments contain personal attacks, please take a pass tonight and just let it rest. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Fair. Next is Paul Lucas. Good evening, Mr. Lucas.
Good evening. Hi. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Paul Lucas. I live by 15 Mile and Coolidge at Bayberry Place condominiums. I would like to say thank you to the 4 City Council members for voting and saying yes to the Transit Center. I am glad it's coming to Troy. Councilman Henderson, Councilman Teets, Mayor Daniels, I respect your arguments and points against the Transit Center. But I believe the fact still remains that the federal government wants to give this money away to a city in America for a transit center. Whether Troy likes it or not, saying no to the federal government is not going to change or fix anything in Washington. Washington will just spend or give the money somewhere else. Taxpayers in America will pay anyway. Troy would not be doing Washington a favor. Troy can set the example to say no to the federal government, who is broke and does not have any money. But is anything going to be accomplished, gained, or resolved at the nation's capital? I also understand a transit center can be a challenge to a city. It can bring new and extra issues to a city. But I am confident and I feel that Troy is big enough and strong enough to face and handle the issues and challenges of a transit center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Minesh Bakshi? Good evening, Minesh.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Could I just pass this on?
Yes, please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Councilors, and other members of the staff, as well as the people present today. My name is Minesh Bakshi, and I live in Troy as well. I was not a supporter of the Troy Transit Center, and one of the reasons was I didn't want the taxpayers to be on the hook for any money. And as was resolved last time, in the last week's meeting, that the Troy Chamber has stepped forward to actually pay for the cost, operating and maintenance cost. And I assume the operating and maintenance cost would mean replacement and all the others. So I would request that we actually have a resolution be created and passed, which would include the responsibilities which are clearly articulated, as I have mentioned in the paper here. I'll just read it out quickly. Resolution for the Troy Chamber of Commerce to pay for operating and maintenance costs for the life of the Troy Transit Center. Whereas on January 17, 2012, at the Troy City Council meeting, a resolution was passed to go ahead with design and construction of a transit center by a vote of 4-3. And those voting to affirm this project were council members Fleming, Slater, Campbell, and McGuinness. And whereas at the same City Council meeting, council members Slater and Fleming introduced to the public, I think there is a typo there, it should be introduced, to the public a letter stating that the Troy Chamber of Commerce would pay all operating and maintenance costs associated with the Troy Transit Center for the life of this project. And whereas the Troy Chamber of Commerce President Michelle Hodges stated that they were excited to report that they will pay for the operating and maintenance costs for the long term and life of the project. She went on to say, we see this as a great opportunity to relieve the taxpayers of Troy and show a shared commitment to make this project happen. And whereas Troy Chamber of Commerce has stepped forward to make this great commitment for the city of Troy and its taxpayers and shall be applauded for its foresight and dedication to help resolve funding for this project. Therefore, the City of Troy joins in a contractual agreement with the Troy Chamber of Commerce that the Troy Chamber of Commerce will pay all operating and maintenance costs associated with the new transit center for the life of this building, which is listed herein as the maintenance, landscaping, maintenance of the building, janitorial, utilities costs for city police security and monitoring, and any other costs that would arise so as to not cost the Troy taxpayers any financial burden. And be it further resolved that the Troy City Council instructs the city management to write up and execute a contract with the Troy Chamber of Commerce for these costs listed above and deliver back to this council within 1 month of this date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bakshi. Richard Peters. Mr. Peters? Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Council, folks in Troy. I got a proposal that I want to float around tonight. I think it should be tax neutral or revenue neutral, but I kind of support a targeted tax cut, say maybe 10% to, I was thinking more like to the southeast part of town and the older part of town on property taxes to targeted homes, say from 10 to maybe 100, but less than 1% of the budget, and not affecting the revenue streams coming in. And what I was thinking of is that it should be an optional thing where they should be allowed to improve their homes, that people should be allowed to upgrade their homes, say environmental, or maybe talk to the engineers, or to put a new face on their homes, or something of that nature, and have, say, a 2-year window of opportunity for these people to improve their homes. And that would be just what I would like to float that out for the council. Also, on the bridge that we had in Detroit, I don't know if I should be saying that here, but, you know, it seems like the Michigan Congress, you know, they're not, apparently, I mean, it just seems to me that a lot of the money seems to be going to the other side of the state. Now, I might be wrong, but I just get the impression that it seems to be going to Chicago instead of Detroit. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe that's hearsay or whatever. But, you know, just just from my opinion, that's the impression I get from up there. And finally, on Iran, I would hope that Rashtanvani's daughter would be the opposition. I would hope there would reform elements in the clergy and in the Revolutionary Guard, and hopefully they'll have tolerance and openness, and it's up to those people there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Marv Reinhardt? Good evening, Mr. Reinhardt.
Thank you, Mayor. I also like to commend that last police officer. Me and the police have a lot of round-to-round goals, but he's pretty square. Okay, and two, I guess people don't understand when I refer to Troy depends on Crooks. Crooks runs from 20 Mile down to 14 Mile. In old Troy, there's only 2 cement roads, Rochester or Crooks, and Crooks was always better. So the old joke is Troy depends on Crooks. And when the chamber built on Crooks, it was also a very funny thing at the time. Apparently all the newbies in the city doesn't know the old jokes. Okay, I just want to settle that. Though there are people inside the chamber that I would suspect that would probably not to be as legally responsible as some. And one person can affect the whole grouping's look. Also, I had a good chance to call Finch & Company this week and ask them to check the credit rating on the members of our chamber, of our DDA, thinking because I got a bad credit rating, it affects my credit. So maybe the credit rating of the members inside the DDA might have an effect on the DDA. All right, it's just a question I talk to them. I talk to them once a month about what I think, how the city's working. As a citizen, I'm concerned about the homeowner tax. I don't want a renter-only tax. Okay, I love the homeowners paying the extra taxes. We love it. Okay. Two, I put stuff on the Facebook about our local police back in 1958 when they were on the playground, making the little kids do stuff that was unbelievable. I was one of the smallest kids on the playground. I started weightlifting at 2nd grade. I stopped basically at 5th, but things changed at the 5th grade level. So some of my things I'm talking to the people that run your committees. Okay, they weren't very nice people in grade school. I was in the band, so that means I was a select few for my school. We gathered together every 4 months to meet the special kids who lived over in Glenmore, Beach, and these rich neighborhoods could get away with murder, and us poor kids had to sit there and take their slapping around. And that's part of what I am. I don't care about the transit center. I'm just making sure that if these guys are crumbs when they were in grade school and there are civic leaders today, have they changed their methods? And that's the reason I say what I say about this city. And that guy is right. We are corrupt from the bottom up, and until you get rid of some of these people, this city ain't going nowhere. Because I spend 24 hours a day making sure my dad's name is fixed from you guys smearing it. Okay? And it's a personal vendetta. I love it. So you guys do whatever you got to do, and until you guys make peace with me, I'll stop this city. Have a good day.
John Coulous. Good evening, Mr. Coulous.
Good evening. Madam Mayor, like so many others in this community, I was disturbed by your controversial statements in which you disparaged marriage equality. I was so angry and embarrassed for our community that I came to City Council to make my voice heard. I was hoping that you would make amends and the city could move on. But on January 9th, when you met with the Gay Straight Student Alliance at Troy High, I learned that you made further inflammatory statements, further disparaging gay people and harming the community. When I discovered that you made a recording of the meeting, I personally went to City Hall and filed a Freedom of Information Act request for the recording. Instead of immediately obtaining it, I received a form indicating that the city is seeking a 10-day extension before fulfilling my request. Need I remind you, Madam Mayor, of the hallmarks of your campaign? You promised, if elected, to bring transparency to government, respect for the residents of Troy, and integrity in communication. How can you claim to bring transparency to government when you invoke the law to delay the release of the recording? How can you claim to have respect for the residents of Troy when it appears that you have to be forced to obey the constitutional mandate found in the Freedom of Information Act? How can you claim to have integrity in communication when you demonstrate a willingness to hide behind the law and allow this controversy to fester? Don't you understand that with each day you delay its release, it feeds the claims of people who say you have something to hide? Madam Mayor, you won the election. You can no longer claim to be leading patriots to take back the government. As of November 14, 2011, you are a member of government, sworn to uphold not merely the constitutions of the United States and Michigan, but all laws enacted under those constitutions. Thus, you must obey the Freedom of Information Act and release the recording. So I am calling on you to keep your campaign promises, explain the delay, and commit to releasing the recording. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil Stargell? He'll pass. Gordon Shepke?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight. I'm not in the best voice tonight, but a lot of times people don't like to hear what I got to say anyway. Mayor Daniels, I support you. I support you for the courageous efforts you've made to bring this city together. I support you for trying to put the brake on some of the excessive spending that's been going on in this city, this out-of-control spending, and the courage and the efforts that you've made to involve more people in these council meetings. Many times we had 3 minutes if we were lucky, and now at least we have an opportunity to get up here and speak our mind, and I applaud you for that. Involvement by the taxpayers breeds commitment to everybody working together to make this a better city. One of the things, well, by the way, the tapes, I think there were several people in the room when those tapes were made, and those tapes can be verified. Those slanderous things that were said about our mayor can be verified very easily. Anyway, getting on with what I have to say. I am not going to be still and quiet here until I have some answers on this Downtown Development Authority's indebtedness. Starting next year, 2013, we're going to be in default by $3,344,215. That's for 1 year. The following year, we will be in default of $6,901,215. In the 2015-16 year, we are going to be in default $10,538,915. In 2016-17, and these are out of the Troy website, the Downtown Development Authority website. This is just a Bath of Reading. The final year is $14,222,915. These are the kind of issues that ought to be worked on and solved. These are going to cause horrific problems with city services. They're going to cause horrific suffering with the taxpayers of the city, and I feel a lot of these things are being totally ignored. I do not appreciate excuse me, our city manager's part in this, as executive director of the Downtown Development Authority. He sets the agendas in these meetings, and if there was a problem coming up, I think that it's his fiduciary responsibility to come say, Mayor or Council, we've got a problem, and this is going to cause us some long-term, real serious defaults in the city if this is allowed to go on, and this was totally ignored. We have to take the bull by the horn. As a council, you've been elected members to lead and guide this city, and what we need to do is get what name calling, everything else put aside. What we have to do, we have to all get together and work to sort out some of this stuff. This leadership that we've been getting in the past, and I'm not really questioning our city manager's leadership abilities as much as the direction that they've taken us. And what we need to do is we need to keep a closer eye on staff, and what we need to do is try to come up with some real answers to the problems. And I'm going to keep on bringing this up until I can really hear some serious discussion on what's going on. done, because this city is facing a major crisis and a lot of red ink that we have to put behind us. And you talk about what it's going to cost the city to borrow money if we go in default. It's just going to be astronomical. Thank you very much for your time. And again, Mayor, I support all of your valiant efforts and through all of the bullying you've put up with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shipke. Gordon Graycheck? I'm sorry, Ed Graycheck. I apologize. See, Gordon, I got your name stuck with everybody now. Ed Graycheck.
Mayor Daniels, I also support you, and I think the taxpayers support you, and they respect you and the work that you're doing for the taxpayer in Troy. Not like other council people. I'm trying to keep this clean and for some of the other people. But there's 6 or 7 people here that come up here all the time, and they want to be nicey about everything. They want everything to stay cool. But they come up here and they try and start stuff with you. So I'm sorry about that. And also the respect that you give to the taxpayer. When we were fighting the library tax, not the library, but the tax to run the library, all of a sudden we have money for the transit center, but we didn't have money to keep the library open. There was a certain council member, Mr. Slater, that called that a bunch of crap, that we were trying to save the taxpayer money, and you thought it was crap that we were giving you. And then last week, when we were trying to put some teeth, and this proposal by Manish, I second this proposal, to put some teeth into the Troy Chamber of Commerce paying for the maintenance of the proposed transit center. But Councilman Slater, you called this muddying the waters. Well, this is what the taxpayer wants to see. The taxpayer wants to see a city council that's working for them and not spending money that we don't have, actually, that the federal government doesn't even have. And here we're going to spend money on this. And I don't see the Chamber of Commerce here represented. So I'd like to see some teeth into this. I'd like to see the waters muddied so that we can provide this resolution so that someone's stuck to pay for the maintenance of that debacle. Thank you.
Thank you. James Savage. Good evening, Mr. Savage.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is James Savage, and I've lived in Troy for almost 37 years. But tonight, the rules of order dictate that I address the chair, but because my remarks concern you, I will refer to you in the third-person tense. On November the 8th last year, Janice Daniels was elected by a sizable majority to be mayor of Troy. Prior to her election, she had stated her opposition to the Troy Transit Center, which should have indicated voter opinion on that subject. Immediately after the election, someone dug up something from Ms. Daniels' past that was used to attack her. The word queer has been used in the English language for hundreds of years without controversy until recent years, when the homosexuals decided to stigmatize it. Since the revelation of her Facebook comment, we have witnessed in this council chamber the worst abuse and bullying that I have ever seen. Mayor Daniels was subjected to public criticism from her own council colleagues, hour after hour of abuse from people who did not know her. Many of them were not even from Troy. At times, the proceedings took on the appearance of a verbal lynching. Through all this, Mayor Daniels sat quiet and kept her composure. But at the January meeting, she did spend 10 minutes speaking out, and she was even criticized for that. She was even criticized for not showing emotion. If there is a witch hunt going on here, it will backfire on the people behind it. I would have sent these comments to the local media, but I doubted they would have printed them. Now that they are public knowledge, I challenge the media to print the full text and also print a copy of this article from USA Weekend, December the 4th, the day before our much publicized meeting. And that is a copy of the article that was in that paper, and it's headed Health Smart, and people should read it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. Sue Martin? Good evening, Ms. Martin.
Good evening. On January 23rd, Trust exercised its rights under the Freedom of Information Act and requested documentation of all of Mayor Daniels' emails sent or received in the service of Troy. We enacted this FOIA request based on Mayor Daniels' promise of transparency while in office, and we were told prior to taking office that in many ways she was going to bring us transparency. We wondered if what she said was true because we found contradictions in what she said. Having just received the documentation this week, and though we are still in the early stages of review, we can affirm that it is in fact true. Mayor Daniels has been less than honest and transparent in her communications to the residents of Troy. Mayor Daniels repeatedly said that she's received nothing but accolades for her actions in office, and yet we saw hundreds, if not thousands, of emails expressing great displeasure with her and or requests for her to resign. We were told that she had strong and loud disapproval from residents relating to the transit center. We saw instead strong and loud approval for the project reflected in emails from citizens and businesses alike at a ratio of approximately 80% in favor, 20% against. Even beyond the indisputable proof in the mayor's own email correspondence, we have public record comments that echo this pattern of willful dishonesty, purposeful misinformation, and self-serving ideology. Just last week, our mayor said that it was, quote, in my own best interest to get behind the transit project once finally approved. Mayor, we don't want someone who's looking out for her own best interest. We don't want a mayor more concerned with herself than us. At the January 9th council meeting, Mayor Daniels seemingly violated the rules and procedures to read what she called her position paper on the transit center that ended with a direct and personal attack on city staff and fellow council members, yet we're admonished for stating the truth. The people of Troy don't want a mayor who's creating a hostile work environment or a hostile city environment a mere 2 months after taking office. We don't want someone more concerned with grandstanding than team building. It is clear that our mayor is not being truthful to us or herself if she believes she has the skills or the necessary support of her community to remain successfully in office. The one thing you're transparent about is not helping us. We want you to know, Mayor, that we will continue to be vigilant, watching over what you say and do every day you're in this office. We will continue reviewing the contents of that FOIA. We will hold you accountable to do what is best for all of us, not just yourself.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Okay, we'll conclude public comments then. Did we want to take a break before response to public comments? Or okay, then we'll move to response to public comments. Mayor Councilman Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry.
There's a couple of people that spoke I'd like to respond to, and I'll just do them one at a time. One is Mr. Fair, the other is Mr. Shepke, but I'll start with Mr. Fair. Thank you for your challenge, Mr. Fair, to not only this council but to everyone speaking. And I saw a little more civility tonight, and I appreciate that. We can all disagree, but we can be more civil about it. And I really appreciate the speakers tonight. I see it toned down a bit. I hope that continues. I don't know if it had anything to do with what you said, Mr. Fair, but possibly so. And as a council person, I pledge, and I know I've made mistakes and said things here that I shouldn't have, things I'd like to take back. But I do appreciate all the council, the mayor and all the council. I respect you, and the city management as well. And so I'll be choosing my words very carefully in the future, hopefully, and not doing anything that would demean or criticize you publicly, any of you, because we do have differences of opinion, but I think this council can be more civil, and I pledge to do my part on that. So thank you for that challenge.
Thank you. Manager Zerley?
Thank you. Just want to mention that it is currently fiscal year 11-12, and the DDA will not be able to make a bond payment. Its bond payment's fiscal year 14-15. We do have time to solve this problem. We're working with City Council, and that's all I can say publicly.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Fleming?
Yes, again, thank you, Mr. Zerlag, and I was just going to address that. There are things going on, Mr. Shepke, and I know that this is a serious problem. This council is taking it seriously. The DDA is taking it seriously. I know the public is not seeing a lot going on, but there are things happening. I know the city manager has been working on this, so we'll be addressing this issue, but it is not being not considered. It's just it's a huge problem, and we respect that, and it is being addressed. And hopefully we'll be in the future, we can have some responses for that. So thank you for your patience. It is a major issue. Thank you.
Any other comments? Basically, I will be addressing the issue discussed this evening in my own time, and I will make public the contents of the conversation, and everyone will see that I have nothing to hide. Thank you. We can move on now to the next item on the agenda, and that's a postponed item. It's a due process hearing on City Management's recommendation that the Troy City Council, by resolution, hereby revoke the massage facility license issued to Recovery Spot Incorporated, located at 1975 East Maple Road. Attorney Bloom.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a due process hearing, and with this council, it's probably the first due process hearing that you have done. So my purpose in coming to the microphone is to just give just a brief summary of what your responsibilities are with this due process hearing. And this does involve a massage facility license, and I wanted council to be aware that this particular license actually expired on December 31st of 2011. So your due process hearing is only focused on the license that, again, has already terminated as of December 31st of 2011. Since it was suspended on December 19th, that's about a 15-day period of time. Mayor, what you should be doing tonight is providing, it's a due process hearing, and basically what this means is that there have been violations, that there have been citations that have been issued to the Recovery Spa, Inc. And those are detailed in the packet which appears in in the council agenda. I'm not going to go over all of that. I know that Captain Fry is here, and I think he can provide a little more insight as to the background of this situation. But I did want to point out that there are several violations that are detailed in the notice of suspension in hearing, which again is contained in the packet. And the Recovery Spa is located at 1975 East Maple Road. And the citations were the failure to post a license, the failure to post the price rates for all services at the massage facility, allowing for unlawful acts to occur, the person who owns it furnishing or providing a location for illegal purposes. Also, allowing unlicensed therapists is a charge that will be sought to be added, and also soliciting for illegal acts. The notice was provided to Ms. Ann by certified mail, and a copy of that certified receipt is also in the council agenda packet. A copy of the license indicating again that it expires December 31st of 2011 was also attached in the city council packet, and we would be relying upon that information. A due process hearing, the focus is whether or not the actions in closing this Recovery Spa were arbitrary and capricious, or were they done with a purpose. And you also need to discuss what that purpose is in your deliberations. So Captain Fry will present a little bit of the background, but he will not get into detail because there are current criminal proceedings. There are 3 particular defendants, and for those 3 criminal defendants, those cases, we don't want to jeopardize those criminal proceedings. So we will not be getting into detail as to all of the specifics because we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to have their day in court in the criminal matter. I know that I have talked this morning with the person representing, the attorney representing the SPA. He is present. He will be making a presentation. With that, I would like to turn it over to Captain Fry to just provide a little bit of the background.
Thank you.
And then I'm happy to answer any questions. Also, after the presentation that is made by the attorney representing Ms. Ann, we would also ask for an opportunity to make any rebuttal comments or answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Attorney Bloom. Captain Fry?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. On October 24, 2011, the Troy Police Department received a tip alleging that the recovery spa located at 15 Mile and John R., quote, was not the regular spa a woman would go to, unquote. The tipster noticed a lot of vans and trucks and suggested we, quote, look the business up, unquote. A simple internet search of the business directed the investigators to a website named www.rubmaps.com. That site gave a review of the business and description of its employees and sexual acts that were performed on the premises. As a result of that information, an investigation was initiated. On November 9, 2011, several individual customers were stopped after leaving the business. Each of those customers indicated they had received massages that included a sexual act. They provided investigating officers with details regarding the establishment. A covert investigation was conducted that involved undercover officers who entered the establishment and posed as prospective customers. In each instance, officers were offered sexual favors by separate employees as part of the massage. On November 14, 2011, a search warrant for the establishment was obtained through the 52-4 District Court. Officers executed the search warrant. Evidence was confiscated and 2 employees were arrested. And as Ms. Bloom indicated, the criminal cases against both those employees are currently pending. Based on the results of the investigation, a warrant request was presented to and authorized by a magistrate of the 52-4 District Court, charging the owner of the establishment with each of the violations as cited in the council packet. The criminal charges against the owner are also pending in District Court. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council? The petitioner? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Slater.
Is there a time period when the criminal cases are going to be heard? Do we know?
Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, this morning, 2 of the cases were adjourned for 30 days at the request of the defendants. The third case, it is set for a pretrial for next Monday morning. So we expect that within the next 60 days, we will hopefully have a resolution of the criminal cases.
Okay. And the petitioner wanted an opportunity to speak?
Yes, Mayor. I believe that the petitioner has a presentation which was submitted in compliance with the council rules of procedure. It was presented by noon today, and it is loaded and ready to go at the when
If you'd like to come to the podium, please.
Good evening, members of the Troy City Council. I am Jay Kim. I am a Korean American attorney, and I'm very proud to be able to represent Ok Soo-Ann regarding this matter, not just as her counselor, but also as a friend that knows her really well and knows my family really well. And we are Christians. However, today we worship our ancestors who have passed as a tradition that doesn't violate our Christian beliefs, because it is our Happy New Year in Korea and China. So I wish this panel Happy New Year. Ok Soo-Ann has invested over $100,000 in the city of Troy, and she has dedicated her energy and skills and to contributing to the community. She is 56 years old and has never been in trouble, has never had a problem, and she is licensed in shiatsu massage techniques as well as deep tissue, Swedish massage. She has got all her certification in order and has never had any type of problem such as this. So together today we have our hands full with a huge problem, and I do not envy the task that you have to go through today because it's extremely complicated as to what we're going to present. And as far as Mr. Fry's presentation, I will say that all of that has nothing to do with my particular client. And my review of the charges with the city or the court, it's actually 3 counts of disorderly person, as well as 2 counts of transient merchant violation. And I'll get into that shortly in that regard. Assisting me this evening will be my associate attorney. Her name is Stephanie Addison. If you could please come here, please. She's in charge of the research involved in this and also will be heading the potential civil lawsuit that will be taking place if this continues to go awry. Sister Counsel was kind enough, Ms. Bloom, to talk to me today, as well as provide all the information that I needed. And that's what caused the original delay with the 2 ladies earlier in which I represent. She spoke about due process, and that's why we're here. The 14th Amendment allows us to review things and gives us justice before someone loses their right to earn a living and their investment in a business. And we believe that this revocation is incorrect and is the wrong decision, and it's going to cost the city of Troy dearly. It's an exciting case, and it's woke up the police department. And because of that, I think they've compromised themselves and have exposed themselves, believe it or not, and I mean that literally, to cause great damage to the city. Let's get into the facts briefly. My client, Ms. Ok-Soo-Ahn, again, 56 years old, has never been in trouble ever with the law, nor do I believe she has any traffic violations, who is a citizen, or excuse me, who resides in Sterling Heights, who has a similar business, a professional masseuse business in the city of Sterling Heights, in which she's been operating for over 5 years without any incident or problems, opened up and was given an establishment license here in Troy. And less than 60 days later, she was raided by the Troy police, who wore masks. And there's a reason why they wore masks. It wasn't because they were afraid of these Korean ladies, but it's because they have frequented this particular establishment, so as not to be identified. The tip that was given to the Troy Police Department, it is unclear and it is not corroborated. During the raid, the police confiscated over $2,000 in electronics and televisions, as well as the sale receipts of that day, which totaled nearly $1,000, and took pocket money out of workers, out of their pockets, the total being nearly $1,400. 2 licensed employees were issued citations, and they were released, and those cases are currently pending. We believe that Ok-Soo-Ahn is being charged again with 5 misdemeanors, not to the level of which are being presented to you by way of sister counsel, but by these made-up charges that were given to her 2 weeks later after the other charges on the 2 ladies were given. For some reason, they've come up with disorderly behavior and transient business. And what that means is, what is it? It's transient?
If I may, it's like if you would see in an urban setting where someone has set up a T-shirt stand next to a gas station business or something of that nature, someone who puts their goods out in the morning, sells their goods all day long, takes them home at night, and could possibly set up shop somewhere else the next day.
Thank you, Ms. Addison. So what they did was they tried to somehow connect the owner, who has no knowledge of what happened with her employees, had no idea that that possibly could have happened, and as a matter of fact, we believe it did not happen, yet the police department simply wants to close this place down. Here the city allows masseuses to open their operations, I believe, in October. It's the first time they've allowed it. And we have Asians trying to run this business, and for whatever reason, you're hearing the police reacting to vehicles and that women aren't going there. It's ridiculous. There's absolutely no evidence that's been produced to counsel that suggests that there have been any criminal acts conducted or committed by my client. Now let's talk about arbitrary enforcement. That's exactly what's happening here. According to the city attorney, there's no precedence for this type of hearing, thus supporting the fact that there is a bias against the Korean business owners. As a matter of fact, the Korean business owners in this community and in this state plan on mobilizing and fighting for Miss Ann, and I'm going to be the leader of that, and I look forward to that. Miss Ann has become a target of the Troy Police Department. At the time of the alleged offense, there were police officers in plainclothes, plainclothes or clothes, that scared everyone away from the business and forced her to close and lock the doors based on false allegations. She has lost a lot of money, and she continues to honor her lease, which is nearly $2,700. The city clerk then denied an employee license of someone that had no problems. They simply would not allow that particular employee the right to practice her skill. Now, it was mentioned that the license was suspended or it had to be renewed. Well, contingent on these particular hearings, that is kind of illusory. Contingent on what you feel or what we need to do, that's what has to take place. She could not. So we filed today with all the proper paperwork. Now, when they allowed this new type of business to come into Troy, they had requirements. They wanted proof of insurance. They wanted 2 passport-sized photos. They also wanted to see the certification. They wanted to see a driver's license. They wanted a number of things. When she initially opened, all she presented was her driver's license and her certificate. Well, today we complied completely with it. That also leads to the arbitrary enforcement of this, because they are not following their own rules and who's allowed or how the procedure takes place. So it's very confusing. So we just wanted to show that we are in full compliance and we understand what the rules are, although there were waiver on those rules initially when she opened. Now, as far as a personal background, my mother is recovering from cancer. Ms. Ok-Soo-Ann has quite a special skill in regards to treating lymph nodes with her hands, and she brought my mother's arm swelling down. I'm very grateful for that. She has no criminal background. Ms. Ok-Soo-Ann has lived in the state of Michigan for 9 years, has never caused any problems. Again, she's a resident of Sterling Heights, Michigan. She's happily married with 2 adult children. She has a high ambition to succeed and be strong and independent, an independent businesswoman. She wants to live that great American dream. She's overcome being a minority and having English issues by working hard and being a contributing citizen, not only to people's health, but also to the taxes. Ok-Soo-Ann has taken all the required procedural steps in acquiring a legal massage license in the city of Troy. She is certified. She's received a very difficult certification with over 1,000 hours in practice at Body Concepts Wellness Institute. In addition to that, she is a member of the National Board of Therapeutic Massage. This can be corrected by the council. It's obvious what's going on here. There's Asians that have a massage parlor, and there is a stigma that's attached with that, but I'm saying that they are wrong. The police department is wrong in this regard, and as the weeks roll on, it'll be proven that these charges were made up just to stick her with them, to get rid of her. And it's proven that they were brought 2 weeks after the original two ladies got in trouble or allegedly committed some crimes. There'll be massive amounts of litigation, multi-million-dollar lawsuit based on discrimination, tortious interference of business, police and prosecutorial misconduct. This is a huge waste of taxpayers' money. The city is already reeling from hate issues regarding the gay and lesbian community. And again, American Asians will not stand for this type of prejudicial treatment toward hardworking people. There is a lot that was left out in Mr. Fry's presentation. I'm going to bring those things out when I have my chance. And a lot of people are going to be hurt. There's going to be a lot of families hurt. Not so much the so-called customers, as Mr. Fry says. These customers, mind you, were not given a citation, nor were they given an arrest warrant, nor were they given a ticket, like most normal cities would do if there were Johns doing this type of behavior, because that's how you stop this type of behavior if it allegedly happened. They did not do that. They are picking on the women, the minority women, and not the white males that went there. In conclusion, due process, it's easy. Let's be fair. It's obvious that there's some bias here. Consider that she has no criminal background, and the revocation not only would hurt her and her ability to survive and eat and provide employment and a service to the community, but it's going to cost the city a lot of money. I ask that you restore her license and be reasonable. This is your first time dealing with this. Not to use a pun, but let's smooth it out and figure this whole thing out. The police overreacted. The prosecution overreacted. It's a big mess, and we can straighten it out now. I want to be the leader in that. I will assure you that even if you give her a probationary period until the conclusion of this judicial process, her day in court, her constitutional right to be heard, that would be fair. And I assure you that that decision would be fair. Everyone in this room knows that it would be fair, and everyone listening and watching knows that it would be fair. That she has to have her day in court before you take her fishing pole away, her right to eat and earn her money. Again, I ask that you restore her license, even on a temporary basis, depending on the outcome of this, and that'll be the end of this fight. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no public comments in due process, so we'll return the items to the council table. Did you want to speak again, Attorney Bloom?
Yes, Mayor. I would just like to kind of set forth why we're here and what the ordinance allows for. It's found in Chapter 98A, which is our massage facility license. And under Section 11, there is a right of suspension or revocation of a massage facility license when any of the provisions of this chapter are violated by the licensee, an employee, a manager, a massage therapist, an employee, or independent contractor of the massage facility, and or when any licensee, employee, manager, massage therapist, employee, or independent contractor of the licensee is engaged in any conduct which violates any state law or city ordinance, or upon notification from the Oakland County Health Department that the massage facility is being managed, conducted, or maintained without regard to proper sanitation and hygiene, or for any good cause. The City Council of the City of Troy may suspend or revoke the massage facility license after notice and a due process hearing. So I wanted to have that read into the record. That is what we're here for today. I know that Brother Counsel, Mr. Welsh, has indicated that he is threatening a lawsuit, a civil rights lawsuit based on allegations of discrimination, and certainly that, I'm sure, we'll have an opportunity to set forth defenses to that. We believe that there are a lot of statements that we would disagree with that were presented here today. I'm not going to get into all of them because the purpose of this body, this public hearing, is to decide whether or not the police were arbitrary and capricious when there were the allegations, the number of allegations against the employee and also the employees and also the owner, and whether that was an arbitrary and capricious activity in closing this business down. Again, this is the license that expired of its own terms December 31st of 2011. This is not considering the new license, which of course I did receive an application today. That's a whole separate process. This is really only the license that expired December 31st of 2011.
Is there any comments from the council? Councilman Slater?
I want to be very careful that I don't ask some questions that would jeopardize your criminal case, so I think I know where to go. Is there a forfeiture proceeding also going forward at this location?
I am not aware of a forfeiture proceeding at this point in time. I do know that there was a search warrant that was executed, and I do know that property is, of course, kept because we're going to need that property for the criminal trial and the criminal proceedings.
Mayor, I have about 5 questions. Should I ask them just one at a time and wait for response, or do we want to kind of circle back on?
Well, I don't know. It would seem that if you ask a question and we can get an answer for each question, at least then we have clarity.
Okay, I'll try to make it short and brief. The civil suit that he suggested, per the zoning ordinance, can't we simply just not renew this and it kind of goes away?
There is an application for a new license, and that will go through the process that is set forth in the massage parlor ordinance. And there are about 60 days that we have for the clerk to decide whether or not a license should be issued. So this is really only pertaining to the license that expired already.
Councilman Henderson?
Well, that answers the next question I had. What about postponing this until after the criminal cases so that we know for certain that, we have evidence that something did actually take place?
That is an option that you have. What the requirement is for a due process hearing to be noticed and for there to be an opportunity to be heard at the first available opportunity. I would just also note for the record that it was originally scheduled for the first available opportunity, but it was adjourned at the request of Ms. Ann. But yes, you could. That could be your resolution, is that you could postpone it. I would say 60 days would be a sufficient amount of time, and that would be something that you could do.
Okay.
Can I have a follow-up question to that? Wouldn't that be more appropriate for the city's case that we not make a decision before the case is adjudicated?
It's up to you to decide what is most appropriate. This is your opportunity to decide whether or not there were arbitrary and capricious actions.
I mean, from a legal standpoint.
Certainly, if there are convictions, then certainly that makes your decision a little bit easier. And then again, you don't have to worry about alienating her rights in the criminal proceeding.
Go ahead.
Well, that was going to be my suggestion, that we postpone this for 60 days until the criminal case is adjudicated. Then we'll be able to ask some pertinent criminal questions, and it will give us an opportunity to take a look at, are you going to leave this PowerPoint with us?
Yeah, I'll leave that, thank you.
And then we'll have 60 days to look at that and see what happens in the criminal case. So that was going to be my suggestion anyway.
Did you have other questions, Councilman Henderson?
Last but not least, is just a quick point. We're a pretty diverse community, and to suggest that we are discriminating against one Asian business in the city of Troy is a little ridiculous.
Councilman Fleming?
Yeah, I think I know the answer, but I may ask the city attorney. If we do decide to postpone this, I'm assuming this has no bearing on your case whatsoever. We're trying to postponing something that was a license that was expiring in December anyway, so it's all after the fact. It doesn't have any impact on your
The
case.
criminal proceedings are absolutely independent of anything that happens with the massage facility license.
Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem McGinnis?
Was that opportunity to postpone discussed previously with the applicant for tonight's hearing based on the, and I don't know if I should direct this to the city attorney or to the applicant's attorney?
Unfortunately, I did not get an opportunity to speak with Brother Counsel beforehand, before the meeting started. So,
In fairness to Sister Counsel, the evidence isn't voluminous, but it's complicated, and it's developing, literally by the minute. Now, our delay in reapplying is just showing deference to this counsel in this particular hearing. Thus, it gives a natural suspension of justice of what we need to do to get this sorted out. So in other words, yes, the time has lapsed since the revocation or the closing. However, we wanted to hear this due process. And so in other words, if my client is given this 60 days, then she should be able to remain open. There'll be no trouble, and the acquittal will come. It'll be dismissed. So I would pray humbly to this panel to allow that, because that, in fact, is due process. The Constitution is on the walls here, and you can hear its spirit nice and loud in this room. So that consideration is greatly appreciated by myself and my client.
You have another question?
But if I understand that correctly, it's a separate issue now. So you've reapplied, and that would be dealt with separately aside from this issue, because we're only talking about the license that expired actually on December 31st. So I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it's really in our arsenal of tools that we have to extend the license at this point that's expired.
Well, actually, no. If you consider that these proceedings suspended that particular suspension of the license, it makes sense that we're to be heard before you consider that was suspended, because it was literally revoked and she was not allowed near her business. So what I'm saying is that suspension is illusory based on your decision today. In other words, is in fact renewed by our attempts to submit all the paperwork today. So it's within your power, I believe, based on this particular hearing, that she may continue business, and not with the others that are in trouble or whatever may be the problem there.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I would just respectfully disagree. The license has expired. There is no available license at this time, and you cannot operate in the city of Troy without a valid massage therapist license and without a massage facility license. There is no license at this point in time. They have filed an application, which we will process in the normal course of business. However, you do not have the authority to grant a license at this time.
So I'm sorry, but
Mayor, if I may, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
All right, just one point, and this brings up to the constitutional issues and the problems that we're having. They wouldn't accept anything. We couldn't go in there. We couldn't go into this respectable building and ask for the extension. They would not allow, they wouldn't even talk to us. Even today, and Ms. Bloom can attest to this, they would not accept the application. They treat it like hot potato. No way, sir. And then she snidely said, I'll take it, but this is going right to the city attorney. We're not touching this. They wouldn't even allow an attorney to submit an application, regardless of what's going on. So my argument is, and she can attest to it, my client wasn't given a chance to even try. And when we did, they said, no way. No way. So that's why, in fairness, because they turned their backs to us, thinking that this whole thing was a mess and that she was a prostitute, which is wrong, that's why she couldn't renew her license, based on that. And that is the truth, and she can attest that even today, that clerk refused to take that packet.
Does our revocation of an expired license affect their ability to get the application for the new license accepted?
Again, there is a process. The application was filed today, and I would just like to clarify that the only time that they have filed an application for a new license, in fact, it was supposed to be filed back in December before it actually had expired. That was not done. The only time that they have applied for a massage facility license was today. We received it today. I was in court all day today, so unfortunately I did not have an opportunity to address it. I am aware of a previous incident where a therapist, an employee, was seeking to be licensed, and she was not allowed to be licensed because because the business was not in operation and because there was a suspension that was in existence of the 2011 license.
Mayor, that tongue tripping right there is what I'm trying to tell you, that they wouldn't accept our renewal attempt. They wouldn't even allow someone that was fully licensed with no problems.
Madam Mayor, he's out of order.
Excuse me.
Okay,
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Isn't revoking an expired license a little bit symbolic? So, you know, how much hot water can we get in by revoking it and then dealing with the others?
Well, the symbolism of revoking a license that is expired in a case that's not yet adjudicated seems premature. And if we don't revoke it, what are the consequences? It's already expired. I don't understand the consequences of our decision here. Could you explain, Attorney Bloom?
Yes. Again, there's a threatened lawsuit that they're threatening that there's been a deprivation. They're also threatening and alleging that there's discrimination that has occurred. So it is important. It is within the procedure that's set forth in our ordinance governing the massage facility licensing. I know it's kind of a symbolic gesture, but it is something that does need to be done so that there is an adjudication of this, so that there is a due process hearing, and there is a final determination of the City Council. Again, there is a new application that was received today, and that will be processed in the normal manner.
Councilman Slater?
Well, Mayor, I was willing to give a 60-day extension. The other option was to revoke. And since I've listened to council, I'm going to move the resolution resolved that the Troy City Council hereby revokes the massage facility license issued to Recovery Spa, Inc., located at 1975 East Maple Road.
I second.
The resolution was moved by Councilman Slater, seconded by Councilman Henderson. Is there additional discussion? You were raising your hand, Councilman Fleming? All right. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, if you could call on the city attorney for a minute. I know that the basis for making this decision is for council to determine whether or not this action was taken in an arbitrary or capricious manner, and in the alternative, if it's not arbitrary and capricious, if we can indicate that the revocation was necessary, it was done with a purpose. And I don't know, in terms of what council needs to provide before we can make a ruling, is that something that we are deeming that we've determined that to be the case by our vote, or is that something that we need to have a discussion about in terms of satisfying a particular requirement?
Mayor, it certainly would be appropriate for you to amend the resolution that's provided and indicate if it is your decision that there was no arbitrary and capricious action, then you certainly could amend the resolution to so indicate. Also, I would just indicate that this record, the record of all of the proceedings, would also be available and would demonstrate what the discussion focused on and that there was an opportunity for a hearing.
Madam Mayor? Yes, ma'am. Just to follow up, I think that the purpose of having this hearing in my mind was that it was going to give the applicant an opportunity to provide testimony to us and to show cause that this action was arbitrary and capricious. And I know that when an adjournment was requested on this matter several weeks ago, we were told that there was an issue with an interpreter, and I don't know if that's been resolved. I'm assuming just based on what we've been told about this case, that the applicant is probably not going to testify before us today. And I understand that you, as her attorney, are here acting on her behalf, and that's totally acceptable. But I think what we're dealing with right now, because there's a criminal matter pending, we've received information, background information, not only what was read here into the record by the city attorney, by you as her counsel, and by Captain Fry. We've also received detailed written information about the case, about the notice that was given for each of the violations of the ordinance. And based on that information, it doesn't appear to me that the actions that were taken by the police department were arbitrary and capricious. I believe that based on the information that we've received, and again, this would be the opportunity for the applicant to provide testimony to us to show us something different. I understand perhaps why she would not be doing that today because of the criminal investigation. And other than that, based on the information that we've received from the police department, from the city attorney, and in our materials, it doesn't appear that the actions were arbitrary and capricious. What we've received has indicated that there was a complaint, that there was follow-up, that there was investigation, and it appears by what was read to us in the record today that the police followed the appropriate course of action in order to get the information they needed to bring the charges, and that's really what we're dealing with. So that is really where I'm sitting right now. If we're going to make a decision on this today based on the information that we have, I don't see anything that's standing out to me as making those actions arbitrary and capricious, and it